Hey guys, so today I wanted to make a video to show you how to change the headphone jack, the audio jack in the iPhone SE. So first of all, you want to make sure that your phone is powered off. I wanted to go over some of the tools we're going to be using today. This is a pentalobe or Torx screwdriver, size 0. And we're going to need that for removing the screws in the bottom of the phone. This is a Phillips screwdriver size 000 that we're going to need for removing the internal screws. This is a suction cup tool that we're going to be using to opening up the phone. I'll show you how that works in just a bit. If you don't have one of these suction cup tools like this, you can also use a small little suction cup like this. I'll include a link in the video description for any tools that I'm going to be using today during this process, or any parts that I'm going to be replacing. Anything that I think might be helpful to you, I'll include links in the video description, so check them out there. So first of all, what we're going to do is use our pentalobe or Torx screwdriver, and we're going to remove these two screws in the bottom of the phone right here by the charging port. So go ahead and remove those screws. So next what I want to do, if you're going to use a suction cup tool like this, what you would want to do is you want to get it just above the home button like this. You don't want to go over top of the home button because it doesn't suction very well. You want to go just over top and you want to press this down so it gets a seal like this, and then you can simply pry on the handle here and the screen starts separating here, as you can see. So if you don't have one of those tools and you have a suction cup tool like this, I would recommend using a suction tool. It's a lot easier. You can just press down, same thing, get a nice seal on there. Then you can start pulling up on this, and you can see it's starting to separate here a little bit. So what I would recommend is having something like a plastic pry tool or something, and very carefully right here above the headphone jack there's a notch where you can get right in there, and just carefully at the same time while you're pulling up on the suction tool, you can just carefully work your way across here and see how that's starting to separate there, and see the notch I'm talking about right here. There's a notch there where you can get a start on it. Then you don't want to pull very far at all because there's a little cable in here for the Touch ID that we need to disconnect first. Remove your suction tool at this point. So now see that little cable in here I'm talking about? You don't want to stretch it too tight or you'll tear it and you'll lose the function for the Touch ID, so we don't want to do that. It's a little hard to show it, but this is the clip right here that we need to remove. So I'm just going to sneak in here with like a tweezers or something and just pop that out of there. It's just a little clip like this. You can pop it out of there. Then also, I would use something plastic, nothing metal for this part. You want to go in and you want to disconnect that connector right there. And then it pops loose like that. Then once that's loose, we can go ahead and pry this up all the way. Now don't go past the 90 degrees at this point. Then what we want to do is use our Phillips screwdriver, size 000, and we're going to remove these 4 screws in this shield right here. Also, make sure you keep these screws in the right order when you take them out so you know how they go back together. So then grab this shield, set it off to the side with your screws. Then don't use anything metallic for this. I would recommend using something plastic or your fingernails or something. Let's go ahead and start removing these connectors, starting with the one that's on top, which is this one. Then next the one right underneath that, and next the back one there. There's 3 different connectors that we need to remove. These 3. Then the whole LCD screen comes out just like that. So next what we're going to do is use the Phillips screwdriver size 000, and we're going to need to remove these 2 screws in this cover right here. You want to make sure when you take these screws out to make sure to keep them in the right order. Then we're going to carefully pry up on this plate right here. We're going to set it off to the side with our screws. So next what we'll need to do is use a plastic pry tool or your fingernail or something. Don't use anything metallic for this. And let's go ahead and disconnect the battery since we're right here. Just get that connector out of the way so we don't have any problems. Then let's disconnect this connector right here. Then I'm going to use something fine like a tweezers, and let's disconnect this antenna wire right here. Pop that up out of the way. Next we're going to need a Phillips screwdriver size 000. We're going to need to remove all these 7 screws that are in here. Now be careful when you take these all out. Make sure you keep them in the right order because they're different lengths, so it's very important that you keep them in the right order. Next, to get the loudspeaker out of here, what we can do is just use something to carefully lift under there. Then we can just kind of pull it out of there. It has this little part that sticks out up here and this little part that sticks out here. So you can just kind of carefully pull it out, and then there's your loudspeaker. So next, to change the charging port, headphone jack, microphone, they're all built into the same part here. So what we're going to need to do is pull up on this tab right here, and you can just carefully pull up on this whole thing that's stuck down with adhesive, and you can kind of just work your way over. Just pull it up. This headphone jack, you might have to rock it a little bit if it doesn't want to come, but usually everything, if you wiggle it a little bit as you pull, then this whole part will come out just like that. So next what we need to do is we need to swap over this rubber part right here onto your new part. So what we can do is just grab that and it pulls off like that. See how it has a slot in the bottom right there? Grab your new part, and we want to strip this over the microphone like this. So this part is down. So then that should be all we need to transfer over to your new part so it's ready to reinstall. So first of all, before you get started, make sure that this little piece right here stays in place. It's just a little metal piece that goes from this hole to this hole, and sometimes it can get dislodged. You also want to check this adhesive flap right here to make sure that's folded down so it stays out of your way for the most part. Then what we're going to do is grab our piece right here and we're going to set it down in like this. And then what I like to do is start with the headphone jack right here, and you have to kind of push this front part down so that can come this way then and seat right in here, and you can see when with the screw hole lines up that it's lined up. And then we're just going to kind of work our way over. I'm going to use my tweezers here so you can see easier. This microphone rubber needs to get pushed back and pushed down in, then it needs to come forward, and it needs to get clipped onto this part right here. So make sure that that's seated properly. Next, what we need to do is make sure that this is pushed over. You can kind of see when these screw holes line up for it right here. I'm just trying to use my tweezers so you don't have to see through my fingers so much. Then we need to get that in place. And then this part here, we need to get this tucked down in here as well. And you can see when the screw holes line up on that, that's not going to stay down until we actually put the screw in for now. This tends to want to tip a little bit. As you can see, I can push it over. So just push it over and then put that screw in there, like when you get to it. So everything should be seated down. So for now, let's go ahead and put these 4 screws in right here in this corner, just to keep this in place. Make sure this rubber here for the microphone is pushed down in right all the way tight where it belongs. So now when you have these 4 screws in, this screw right here, barely put it in at all, so it's still quite loose. So this here Touch ID thing can move a little bit so we can get this loudspeaker in underneath it easier. Then we're gonna grab our loudspeaker here and we're gonna slide this under here. As you can see, it slides in under it easier when that's not fastened all the way. Then watch this cable right here. We need to get that little bump in there, tucked underneath there. Then we can push the loudspeaker down. And then go ahead and put these screws right here back in and tighten this one right here. So next, now that we have all our screws back in all the way around, let's grab this antenna wire right here and snap it back into place right there. Make sure that this wire is in its groove down the side of the speaker there. Next, let's go ahead and reconnect this connector. And then stick this down so the adhesive holds. Then let's go ahead and reconnect the battery right here. Next, let's grab this shield and set it right down on here. And go ahead and put your 2 screws back in. Next, we want to grab our screen and we want to set it down on here. Let's start by reconnecting this first connector right here. You can kind of hear it and feel it snap in. And we want to do them in order, the way that they're stacked. So let's go ahead and reconnect this connector right there. And then we want to reconnect this one right over here. Now, while holding the screen at a 90 degrees still, don't pull it too far back so you don't strain the connectors too much. Then we want to grab our shield and set it down in here. So while still holding the screen with one hand, we need to get these screws in here to put this shield back on. So next, now we've got all our screws in the plate right here. What we need to do is carefully set this screen down all the way. And what we're going to attempt to do is reach in here and grab this connector right here. Don't pull too hard. We're going to kind of set this off to the side like this. And we're going to carefully try to reconnect this. There's just enough slack in this cable that we can reconnect this right here. Then also what we need to do is just put this retainer clip on here to hold this connector down in place. The 2 holes go this way and the one piece goes this way. The little tongue goes down. And you can just push that down and that snaps right in there. Next, what we want to do, we don't want to pull this up too far so that this cable pulls off again. But what we want to do is try to get this top in first like this while it's still held at an angle like this. And then what we can do is just carefully set this down. As long as the top stays in tight like that, we can just set this down and start pressing down all the way down. As you can see, that's in all the way there. Then we want to put our screws back in the bottom here. You can do this with your fingers if you want. I'm just using a tweezer so it's easy to see and so it's easy to grab. Then we want to take our pentalobe screwdriver, put these screws back in. Then we want to power on our device, and as soon as it comes up, we know everything's working and you're all set. Thanks for watching.